freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your DFS preview for this week's Worldwide Technology Championship. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Rick. Happy Halloween Eve.
Yes.
Or mischief night, as they say.
That's right.
No mischief going on tonight. That's what I hope everybody's behaved. But what a time of year.
There is so much today. It is mischief night. It is Victory Monday. It is a sports equinox. All four major sports leagues playing tonight. And it is the Monday of a Tiger Woods designed course on the PGA. I mean, there's just this sports calendar just never stops.
It never stops. It's unbelievable. All the stars are aligning, and we're here and ready to break down a big one for you.
I can already see it now. I'm sure you've thought of this as well. A 10-7, 9-8 New York Jets team that has done just enough, led by their defense, sneaks into the playoffs. A healthy Aaron Rodgers steps back on the field as a dangerous wild card squad and makes a deep run for the Super Bowl.
I wouldn't be surprised if this team made a run. I'll be honest with you. And that yesterday's game, which was tear your eyes out bad.
It was horrible.
It was the punting Olympics.
The Giants had -8 passing yards.
Yeah, I saw -9.
Okay, my bad. I gave him credit for one more.
But just pathetic. And I know that this is a golf show, but that's the kind of game for the Jets that you win, and they've lost those games in the past, and it just helps your record. And you've shown that you can play with the Chiefs and the Bills, and you've shown the Eagles. They played with the Eagles, beat the Eagles. They could play with these teams, and so you have to win against the Giants with -9. But they had -8 or 9. They have negative passing yards, and it went to overtime.
It is a way to win in the NFL. It's not going to be a way to win on the PGA Tour this week. You are going to need to score, and you are going to need to score early and often. We are going to a new golf course, Greg. El Cardonal at Diamante. This is a Tiger Woods design. We were chatting before we went hot. The event that has historically been played, or at least the last handful of years, at El Chameleon in Mayakoba. We now go to the opposite coast. Tiger Woods gets to unveil this pretty new golf course. I think 2014 is when it opened up. And we were saying, in no way did Tiger Woods think, all right, I've got to defend this place against Ludvig Aberg. I got to defend it against Cameron Young. I've got to defend it against the PGA Tour. This is resort golf at its finest.
And you think about what Tiger has said in his design philosophy, and I haven't heard him really mention anything about, what challenges PGA Tour players. It seems like the Tiger Woods design philosophy is based around everybody being able to play it, which is totally fine. I'm not sure what that's going to mean on the PGA Tour. It's a hard thing to design a golf course that everybody can play and at the same time challenges the best players in the world. So we'll see how that all plays out. I have a feeling they're going to go get it. The challenge won't be necessarily with the golf course. It'll be with, outpacing the other player. So that's the beauty of the game, is the competition never goes away because everybody's playing the same golf course. But it is pretty cool to see a Tiger Woods design. I'm just curious to see if his design business grows and continues, and if we see him come up with PGA Tour designed golf courses. Is this? Yeah. I'm with you. I don't believe that this was the intent.
Josh, if you want to show my screen, I've got the scorecard. I've got some metrics that I've kind of thrown together. But let's look at the card here, Greg. 72, par 72, 7,452 yards. When you start looking at this golf course, you're going to notice a couple of things. Zero rough. I'm not I'm not exaggerating. Literally zero rough. It's one single length of fairway that goes until you run into sand and or native area. The landing zones are very generous. Most often at least 65 yards wide. There are a few holes where you can get a full football field of 100 yards before you get yourself into trouble, and massive greens over 8,000 square feet, which are going to be the second largest greens that we've had on tour this season or next season, behind just the Plantation course at Kapalua. So lots of room out there, not much resistance to be found.
And there's a couple of factors here when it comes into the length of the golf course and how it plays. You have a couple of factors. One is the paspalum grass, which generally isn't very fast. So I don't think you're going to see a golf ball run like crazy. But with no rough and wide landing areas, it means they're going to hit drivers. And when they hit drivers, the golf course, when the penalty for missing left and right is reduced, distance goes up. So you're going to be able to really air it out. And you start to look at the lengths of these holes, and they're not very long. At that, 7,400 yards is a long golf course, but you break it down hole by hole, 582 is reachable. A 208-yard par 3 is middle of the road on the PGA Tour. It's not daunting in length by any means. 351, we'll see how that play holds. 483. So, that's a driver and a 8-iron for a lot of these guys, somewhere in that range. It looks long. 483 is long. If it's into the wind, the reports are it'll be very calm, can play long. But when you can hit driver at that length, it's not that bad. 438. Driver wedge. 601. When you can hit driver, that becomes reachable. Which is crazy to think, but that's reachable. 489, same deal. 474, same deal. 200 yards with the 9th. So you start to look at these, and there's not a single hole where the length is daunting.
Right.
Which is kind of wild on a 7,400-yard golf course.
It's an interesting conversation, and one that we tapped into a hair a couple of weeks ago with Ludvig at, I can't remember if it was in Vegas or Jackson, but the idea of, are you requiring bombers? Are guys that are long and straight, are they minimized a little bit on a golf course that has fairways as wide as this? They're still going to be longer than everybody else. Can JJ Spawn compete out here playing from this far back after you just go through this and say, a lot of times it's driver 8-iron, maybe it's driver 6-iron for him, maybe it's driver 7-iron for him. How do we translate this scorecard into the types of golfers before we even get into naming names here in a second?
I certainly give an edge to guys who can hit it far. They're going to have an automatic edge, and there's not really a penalty for their shortcomings. I know Ludvig probably doesn't have any, but the length is absolutely still an advantage. But it's an advantage in the fact that it sets up your second shot. So you can overcome shortcomings in distance with second shots. You can overcome that with putting, right? These are really big greens as well.
Yeah.
And so this feels like it kind of gets broken down into a second shot putting golf course, which is the recipe for birdies we talk about all the time. Yeah. But I think it really, as the areas get wider and wider, while distance is an advantage, and my lean will be to distance, it's not the only way to get around here. And it ultimately turns into a putting contest, in my opinion.
Yeah, lots of birdies. If you're making pars, you're probably losing ground to the field. I suppose there is a level of, hey, maybe the wind kicks up and plays a little bit of defense. But as Greg mentioned, not really in the forecast as of right now on this Monday. So let's start naming names, Greg. We'll jump over to the cheat sheet. We'll start going through this tier by tier and find out who has the best chance to play well in Mexico this week. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
An NWSL semifinal Sunday you'll never forget, with an icon leading the Shield winners against a legend who's hanging up her boots, and a budding star looking for back-to-back championships against a squad determined to give their captain a grand finale. All on CBS Sports Network.
And we're back. Okay, Greg, this is my website, rickrungood.com. It is the cheat sheet, and it reveals that there are 5 golfers over $10,000. Ludvig Aberg, $11,200. Cameron Young, $10,900. Sahith Theegala, $10,700. Steven Yeager at $10,200. And Lucas Glover rounds it out at $10,100. The cream of the crop. How would you like to spend here, Greg?
It's a really interesting board when you look at it in its totality. Because I do think there are some ways to get these heavy hitters in there. And what we've learned in the past, so far in this FedEx Cup Fall, is that the cream has really risen to the top.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
So getting these guys in your lineup is important. Picking the right one is important. So I'm absolutely fine with playing Ludvig. I think again, while his length and accuracy combination may be mitigated a little bit, the length is still an advantage, as I said, and I think his iron play has really improved since the Ryder Cup, since the end of the PGA Tour season last year. It's really improved, and he's been a pretty good putter for his entire career on the PGA Tour. An above-average putter. He's a guy that can put up a stroke around without a problem on the green. So I'm fine with Ludvig. Cam Young is a little bit more of a risk. It feels like it should be a great golf course for Cam Young.
Yeah.
What we saw last time we saw Cam Young wasn't necessarily all that great. And I'm really a little worried about that iron play section. So I don't know what I'm going to get, but I love Cam Young. I love Sahith Theegala as well. The 2 guys I'm probably not going to play, I just think they're priced too high, is Yeager and Glover. So I'm really looking to get one of those top 3 guys locked into my lineup, whether it's Ludvig, Young, or Theegala. I'm comfortable with all 3. And one of them has to be in there for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The big 3 at the top, Ludvig, Cam Young, and Sahith, I think all offer a lot to like. Sahith's coming off a victory a couple starts ago, and his ability to spray it off the tee, probably not going to be a problem here. After that, it's all good. I find a little bit of trouble with Glover, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Greg, because he has really done a lot of damage. He had a career in basically 6 weeks with the wins and the top 5 finishes, yet he is still not a great putter, right? He's lost strokes putting in 4 of his last 6. That includes his last 2 at the BMW, the Tour Championship. We haven't seen him play in over 2 months. I worry that if we get anything like we've got in the last 2 or in the handful, where if he loses a stroke putting, if he loses 2 strokes putting, I just don't see a way to win, and you need to win at $10,100.
Right. And again, it's similar with Steve, with Yeager. Is the really good play from him going to produce a win?
Yeah, he's been so consistent, but we haven't really seen the upside.
Right. And that's great. You can make a great career doing that. And there are many weeks where that's a auto play in your lineup. But when the performance is this good and the results don't match, it makes me question the ceiling, because this has been going on for a long time, right? It's elite ball striking. And what's that going to give us? So I have my concerns with both Glover and Yeager. With Glover especially, I know you were talking about him earlier. He's going to have a hard time gaining strokes off the tee, because he is a great driver. And you look at that green column on the left, if you're watching on YouTube, that's the off the tee column. Yeah. He gains strokes off the tee nearly every week, but a lot of that comes from accuracy. He's one of the most accurate drivers on the PGA Tour, which is, again, great, but it's not going to be a huge benefit here. There's not a lot of fairways to miss. So that advantage gets taken away a little bit. And when it comes to the putting, he has really gotten rid of a huge issue. And it hasn't made him a great putter. It's just it's gotten him to an acceptable level where he feels confident, and that's a real benefit. But you're gonna have to fill it up this week. And after all this time off for Lucas Glover, I'm not sure I'm ready to jump in at $10,000. I think it'll be a good week for him. I do, but you know, I need a win up here, and I'm not sure I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty big drop off from Ludvig and Cam Young and Sahith to the rest of those guys, especially because when you get down to the 9K range, there's some really good options here, and you know it squeezes Jaeger, who's been great but upside questionable. It squeezes Lucas Glover, wondering about what the upside is if he doesn't putt well, and just kind of puts him in an awkward position. The 9K range, Beau Hossler, who's been phenomenal this fall, Emiliano Grillo, Thomas Dietrich, JJ Spawn, Adam Svensson, and then the bottom is Akshay Patia, Chris Kirk, and Luke List. How can we start parsing through these golfers here?
You mentioned JJ Spawn earlier. I think he can find a way to win here. The putting since July has been okay for the most part. I know he struggled at the Shriners, but it was clearly better at the Zozo. And his iron play has been absolutely phenomenal since April. You know, we're coming up on an entire season here where it's just been great. He's been great with the irons. So I love the upside in JJ Spawn. I'm very pleased with that. Beau and Grillo are interesting plays. Again, I mean, Beau may be priced a little too high as well.
He's been like the best player in the fall, Greg.
He's been the best player in the fall. I agree. You just start to get really pinched on the other side of your lineup. If you got to get one of the top three and Beau, you can do it. And I actually really like getting him in because the putter can get really hot. There have been real improvements with the iron play. I don't like the price. Just as far as lineup construction goes, it pinches it a little bit, but it's doable. And if you are comfortable with a couple of the flyers we got in the 6K range, then I think you can play Beau. And he's reliable. He is reliable. So he's low enough to where he can get into your number 2 spot. And I think he's worth that play.
Yeah, I mean, he's long enough off the tee. He gained strokes there. The tee to green play has been great. And as you mentioned, that putter has gotten scorching at times and has been a real asset for him this fall. You mentioned Emiliano Grillo. I'll point out a couple of things. You know, he's been on the skids a little bit. Small little slump from the BMW Championship. Missed his first 2 cuts of the fall portion. I worry about his iron play. But he finished T10 at the Zozo. We don't have the strokes gain breakdown from there. Yeah. So it's hard to say, you know, did he gain 5 strokes putting? Was he back to being elite ball striking tee to green Emiliano Grillo? So we've got questions about that. But his record on Paspalum, Greg, is
the king.
He is unreal. He's the king. I mean, he's got like 48 rounds. He's gaining like 1.6 strokes per round. It's just, again, usually not a surface that we have the metrics on because they don't usually take the shot link to the places that you find Paspalum, but you can't close your eyes and putt on. He's obviously putted better there than a lot of other places.
Yes. And, you know, Andy Lack did a great article on rickrungood.com, which you should really check out to get an idea of how this golf course is going to play. And the Mexico Open at Vedanta has been a really good comparison to this golf course, according to Andy. And I can see the similarities there as well. Wide corridors, same grass type. It makes a lot of sense. And he's played there twice. He has a T33 and a T5. Gained strokes putting in both of them. Yeah. So I think Emiliano is maybe a little risky because we didn't get strokes gain data last week, but that's got to be a good sign. A T10 at the Zozo, heading to the king of Paspalum, heading to Paspalum. I'm very comfortable with that. So there, I wrote down 3 guys, Beau, Grillo, and Spawn in the 9Ks.
Let me get your thoughts on one more, and it's Akshay. So the thing that I find so interesting about Akshay is that he had the opposite field swing, those back-to-back weeks where I think it was Scottish Open Championship, where no one was paying attention what was happening stateside. He finished T9 at the Barbasol and won the Barracuda. And then that was only 6 starts ago. If you look at his best professional results anywhere in the world, Greg, Korn Ferry Tour, PGA Tour, etc., here are his best results: Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Bahamas, Barracuda, Bahamas, Barbasol. So basically 5 of his best 6 events ever are the Bahamas, in Puerto Rico, or Mexico.
Let's get tropical.
Let's get tropical.
Right? I mean, if he was on a team on the PGA Tour, it'd be the Flint, Michigan Tropics.
That's right. I mean, you go down here. I mean, he's got a good result in Bermuda. He's got a good result in Punta Cana. Like the guy loves the tropics.
He loves the tropics. I'd also say this about Akshay. I don't love what I'm seeing in the analytics right now.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Because of his youth, he's like you could start him any week. I'd be comfortable starting him any week. He's got an extremely high upside. And at 9,200, you could take a chance on Akshay. That could get you into the winner's circle. He's a caliber player that could win this week. You know, he's not a top 50 guy, but he belongs in that category, I believe. So I'm high on Akshay as well, even though the analytics don't quite add up.
I think he's quite risky, but with great risk comes great reward. So
yes,
kind of one of those types of options at $9,200. Anybody else here? Luke List has played well, hits it far, doesn't drive it straight. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I put some thought into him. I feel like Luke List's success comes on places where driving is paramount. And distance will be an advantage, but it almost goes downhill after the driver for Luke List. And I like guys with length. I don't like when they lean on the driver this week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's just going to need to be flawless everywhere else to contend, and that's a pretty big ask. Okay, well, we'll continue this conversation. The 8s, the 7s, the 6s, because we're going to get to some sketchy portions of this board. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
We need the sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
And we're back. Okay, Greg, the $8,000 range, fairly small here. Justin Suh, Keith Mitchell, Matt Kuchar, Mark Hubbard. Then you get Lucas Herbert, lots of H's, Davis Thompson, Chris Gotterup, Andrew Putnam, and a guy who finished 3rd in Las Vegas in his last start, Taylor Pendrith. So this is where things start to get very interesting. No longer is this like, oh yeah, this makes a ton of sense. Just a lot more question marks here. So what do we want to do?
I got 2 guys I'm really interested in here.
Okay.
There are more that I'm okay with, but there are 2 that I'm really interested in. First, we got to go all the way down to the bottom. It's Taylor Pendrith.
Agreed.
This seems like it's absolutely made for Taylor Pendrith.
Yep.
If you could design a golf course for him to win, this would be it. Mm-hmm. And it's to the point where you could start your lineup with him. If you had questions about whether to play Ludvig, Sahith, or Cam Young, you could start here and figure out who fits in best price wise up top. Because he on this kind of course fits in with those. He can play with those guys. So what I love about Pendrith is what he's done with his approach game since June, the end of June. And it's been basically every week. I mean, you're talking about 8 out of 9 gaining strokes approaching the green. You've seen some nice finishes to go along with it. Some really high ceiling, like Shriner's T3, Barbasol 6th, 14th at the Rocket Mortgage. And then there's been some missed cuts, but he's had his success on golf courses that are kind of like this. Rocket Mortgage, it's like, well, this is made for Cam Davis. You can be long, you can be wild. Well, Taylor Pendrith plays really well. Shriners, you can be long, you can be kind of wild, plays really well. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So I'm all in on Pendrith.
A scoring fest where you can be a little inaccurate, just keep it out of the desert. That's what he did at Shriners, and it's basically what you're going to have to do here. The other thing that I think is interesting about Pendrith is, we'll see later in the week what the sentiment around the industry is, but anytime people get to play Chris Goddard, they're like foaming at the mouth for it, right? And I get it. Like, I love the kid, but he's been like the shiny new object in the fantasy circles for the last couple of years. He bombs it, he mashes it. Taylor Pendrith is like a better, more refined Chris Goddard.
Yes.
Similar skill set, much more proven, $200 cheaper. And we'll see as the week goes on how they compare in terms of the projected ownership. But that Pendrith is the guy that I also circled at the bottom. Like, yeah, this one makes sense.
We want Goddard to play well, but I'm not sure he's stepped up to the plate at that level. He gets his PGA Tour card, but does not dominate on the Korn Ferry Tour. I just don't think he's proven enough yet. I got to wait a little bit. I know he can play. I saw him play at the U.S. Open, an incredible round where he really fought back hard. So I know he's a lovely player, but I'm not buying into the hype at all, especially not with Taylor Pendrith sitting right below him.
Yeah. Who was the second guy?
The second guy, I'm glad you asked. Davis Thompson. Okay, a little more expensive than Chris Goddard, but look at what he's done tee to green. It's just been phenomenal. You're talking about 4 in a row, gaining strokes approaching the green, all the way back to the end of June, gaining strokes off the tee. Been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And the putting has been cool, but far from bad. It gives you the idea that, hey, we might be able to see a guy gain 3 to 4 strokes on the greens. I think he has that kind of upside in the game. And also we've seen some really good play out of him. I mean, ended the season with a T22 at the Wyndham, tied 16th at the Sanderson Farms, and a couple of other tied top 35 finishes at Shriners and Fortinet as well. It's been pretty good. I think this could be a good setup for him.
He's gained at least 4 strokes from tee to green in each of his last 4. He's lost putting in 4 straight, but his biggest loss was 1.3 strokes. So basically less than a stroke to the negative in each of his last 4. So it's not like he's giving away a ton of strokes with the flat stick, and he has shown he can get hot there because just a couple of starts before that, he goes nuts and gains nearly 5 at TPC Deer Run. So yeah, I agree. Remember the pedigree, former number 1 ranked amateur in the world, finally starting to figure out on the PGA Tour, putting things together. The results are following suit.
Yes. So a lot of upside, right? And he's performed well in a birdie fest like the American Express before as well. Played well at the Fortinet last year. So yeah, I think things are in really good shape for Davis Thompson.
Matt Kuchar's interesting if we were playing at El Chameleon, but we are not. He's
playable here.
You think so? He's crushed it in Mayakoba, and he has admittedly put together some pretty decent results as of late. But I worry that this is a lot of golf course form.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It will be long for Matt Kuchar, but like we said, hey, this turns into a putting contest. And if you look at, I know the strokes gain metrics aren't great, but he's a very solid lag putter, avoids 3 putts very well.
Yeah.
And I think he's a pretty good long iron player considering. I wouldn't be surprised if he got hot. I'm not in love with it. I didn't write his name down, but he's a playable pivot. If you feel like, okay, I got all bombers, and I know the leaderboard's not going to be full of all bombers, maybe it's a little sneaks up there.
It's a little misleading to say that he's a good long iron player, Greg, because those are hybrids. He hits those big high hybrids that land very soft, and I'm like, oh, he's done it again, that guy.
Those are called long iron replacements. And you're right. Because of what I was saying, he's a good long iron player. I had hybrids in my mind. I was imagining a head cover laying on the ground next to his ball.
That's exactly right. He's got a bunch of them in the bag. The 7K range, massive. Some guys who have played well in the fall. We've got some guys coming back from injury. I'll point one out in particular, but it's basically Ben Griffin, Taylor Montgomery, Cam Champ at the top. The middle of the range is your Mav McNeely, Michael Kim, Vince Whaley. The bottom of the range is Hayden Buckley, David Lipsky, Ryan Moore, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Greg, where do you want to go first?
Okay. Huge range, like you said. And there are a ton of playable guys. A tonable. How about that? So you have a lot of options in this range. And it's a good thing because it really can help you get some more stars in your lineup. Like this range makes Beau Hossler much more playable along with a Ludvig or Thigala or Young. So this is an important range. I'll start. Let's do what we did in the 8Ks. We started at the bottom.
Okay.
This is another guy that I can build a lineup around. We talked about him recently, Rick. 2 episodes. Last episode heading into Zozo. Yes.
Is that him?
Yes. Will Gordon. Okay, now it looks pretty bad.
No, you were all over this.
Over it.
You called the Will Gordon playing well at the Zozo. I believe Josh can correct me if I'm wrong. I either bet him for real and or put him in our bets for top 20. He finished T21, which was a little bit unfortunate, but that's still very good.
You said you were going to play a top 20 on him or something.
I think I did. I definitely bet it. I can't remember if I put it on the show. Yeah.
So really close. But the reason why we were so high on him, and went that way at the Zozo is because he is a really strong long iron player. And Zozo was a lot of long par fours, a lot of long iron play. And then a lot of wedges. And I thought that probably played into his hands. Well, this week may play into his hands even more with the number of mid to long irons in there, that 175 to 200, 225 range. I think he's going to come into play a lot. And now all of a sudden, the guy who, if you're watching on YouTube, you see his club head speed is 3rd on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And there's no rough. You can hit it anywhere. And this is a really high upside play to me.
Yeah, Will Gordon season for sure. Get him on a golf course.
I'm not a Will Gordon guy.
No, you might be after this week.
This week I am.
Yeah. All right, let me fire one out there at you. Well, first of all, let me point out Mav McNeely. So Mav McNeely is back this week. This is his first start since June. He had that shoulder injury that he dealt with all year long. He tried to play through it. It was horrible. He shut it down in June. He did not get surgery, but he did a ton of rehab. He did like stem cell replacement treatments. He also did, Greg, and this is the one part I definitely want to get your thoughts on. He said he had to make some swing adjustments, which is always pretty scary for me, at least in terms of I'm going to have to see a pretty significant run before I get interested in Mav McNeely again.
It's Mav McNeely. Okay. It's one thing when like Will Zalatoris came back from his injury at Century and made some swing adjustments, and we were worried it went pretty well before he got hurt again. So Mav McNeely is not a Will Zalatoris type talent. He's got to prove his worth a little bit to me, and I can't find a reason to put him in here, especially when he's surrounded by Callum Tarrant, Cheston Hadley, Sam Ryder, all playable. Michael Kim, Vince Whaley, Chad Ramey, Eric Van Rooyen, all playable.
All super playable.
Right? I mean, I like all those guys. And maybe with the exception of Sam Ryder, I wrote them all down on this list.
Yeah.
And Joel Damon's playable too.
Yeah, Joel Damon just withdrew.
Never mind.
I got to get him off the cheat sheet. That's my fault. He just withdrew. He was replaced by, I can't remember, but I'll look it up. But here, I'm glad you mentioned Callum Tarrant because that's where I was going, right? And when you started talking about, okay, specific golf courses, horses for courses. This is a course that at least I believe distance helps, accuracy doesn't matter, and turns into that birdie fest of approach and putting. That is literally how you describe Callum Tarrant. He is very inaccurate off the tee. He can still move it. He has those two skill sets of approach and putting. We have seen him pop recently. He had that lightning hot round in Vegas. He finished T23 there. It continues a stretch of very good golf for him, dating back to the 3M Open. That was 6 starts ago. I'm here. I'm here for Callum.
I see with Callum a little more volatility than I do with a Steven Yeager, for instance, but some similarities. But I'm much more willing to play him at 7,600 than, Steven Yeager, who's up in the 10Ks.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And I also think there's more, more of those blazing hot rounds than we see from Yeager. So I'm very happy to play a Callum Tarrant here. I do wonder what the real upside is. Like, we could get a great week and it's a T16, but I'm all right with that in this range.
He can finish inside the top 10, but you
just don't. He doesn't put the position result on the board. Now he's still finding his way. He's still young. Like last year, heading into the season, he was a up and comer for me. I know he's a little bit older, but kind of a new PGA Tour player I thought could make some noise. He didn't. But I still see that potential. And it looks like it's going in the right direction right now. So I'm fine with that.
Definitely. Josh tells me that Jonathan Bird got in for Joel Damon. That was the replacement earlier.
Okay.
Just a bit ago. You mentioned that. I mean, you mentioned some of the other guys I like too. I think this is a great spot for Vince Whaley, who's gone 25th, 28th, and 13th in the fall portion. Eric Van Rooyen is getting his game back in shape. 30th, 16th, and 23rd in his 3 events this fall. You're finding a lot of guys who are putting it together this time of year, leading to good results. So you can really lean on this section, Greg, and find some viable golfers.
Yes. So there's a lot, and that's kind of this middle 7K range is, I think, really strong, from Tarrant, skipping Matt McNeely, going all the way down to EVR. I think really pretty much anybody in that 7.6 to 7.4 range is playable. I like all those guys. But I think the top of this range is really interesting too, because of Cam Champ, who I just think is, I know.
I didn't even say anything.
I know, but I feel the sigh too. I look at it. Am I going to do this again? Right? How long are we going to stick with this? And I still think something's coming.
He is just so good for 1 or 2 or 3 rounds a week. And then he punts hard.
Right.
Very hard. I mean, he did it in round 3 of the Shriners. He, completely punted that tournament away on Saturday. He has done it a handful of times. I mean, it's just the talent is insane. It's a good golf course for him. He will look like prime Tiger Woods for 18 holes at a time. I'm just so, I'm not tired of it. Like I just don't know what to I'm gonna be involved in Cam Champ because I'm sick, but like I just know how this is gonna finish.
Yeah. Well, I think that breaks at some point. This isn't the really bad missing cut after cut after cut Cam Champ.
Well, that's why we're spending the oxygen on him, because he is playing well. If he was just missing cuts every week, we wouldn't even have to have these conversations.
No, it's not just on a whim. Cam Champ's won before on the PGA Tour and hits it a long way, and he's going to play well.
No,
this is there's something real going on here.
He might be putting well again. Like,
yeah. I don't think you could pass him up this week. Now think about you have Pendrith, Champ, and Will Gordon. That's a great core 3 for your lineup. You got a heavy dose of long guys. who have extremely high upside. You add in one of your top 3, you got 4 guys that can really move it. And I think that's a safe number when you look at, well, how are we going to play the distance thing? You got 4 guys that really move it, and then you mix in 2 other guys. I like that blend personally. How's he done in Mexico?
2 top 10s. God. All right, fine.
You got to go back to him.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've been involved this fall, and if I've been involved this fall, this is like one of the better spots for him. I absolutely have to.
Yes. You will kick yourself. You get to, Sony, and you get into next season, and we can kind of reset on Cam Champ, but you can't bail now.
No, I can't, I can't, and I won't.
Cage Lee.
Okay.
So I think a very interesting upside play. He could just make so many birdies.
Yeah. He won twice at
Craig Ranch.
Yeah, which was like Birdie Fest both years, right?
Birdie Fest both years. Big, wide open kind of golf course. Different grass type, but a similar set of skills. A very specific set of skills.
That's right. Cage has them. Good luck.
Cage Lee has them. So he's a option for me, a little bit of a risky option, non-bomber. I'm into that. I think, Tyler Duncan caught my interest. Another one of these guys. I mean, there's like 10 guys in this range that I'd play.
Yeah, no, it is very a very good lineup filling portion of the board, which is not something that we see every single week. So I do like that. The 6K, I don't know if I can feel the same way about. Adam Long, Austin Smotherman, MJ Duffy amongst those at the top. The middle of the board, that's where you find Doc Redman, Isaiah Salinda, and the bottom of the board includes a friend of the pod, Michael Block, $6,000. Greg, let's just start there. Blocky came on the show last week. He is min priced since the run at the PGA Championship where he finished T15. He has missed 2 cuts, and he didn't really give us a lot of confidence. He kind of talked about how he hasn't been practicing as much as he would like and hasn't been playing that much. What do we do with the old Blockster?
Not playing him, watching, cheering, enjoying, not playing him. I mean, he said it on your show. I know it was a major championship, but his A+ game gets beat by 14 guys.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of red on this board for a reason. And a T15 is the ceiling, and it's very unlikely and a golf course that does not suit his game well at all.
Yeah.
This is a no-go. But cheer him on. But it's a no-go.
Cheer him on. Okay, so who are the goes in the 6K range then?
There's only 2
okay,
that I could find.
I've got like 2.5, so let's see what they are.
I could give you 2.5. I could give you a half.
Okay.
Number 1, kind of a staple in the lineup with what we've built so far. It kind of has to be a staple, Kelly Craft.
Yeah, that was one of mine as well.
Right. This is a rare, bright, shining light in the 6K range. Look at what he's done the last 2 starts with his approach play.
This was another thing we were all over, by the way.
Yes.
Pat ourselves on the back because he was 6,400 in Las Vegas. We pointed this out. He finished T23, gained another 7 strokes on approach. So now he's got four great starts in a row. 3 of them have been this fall. The last 2 have been knocking the cover off of it.
Yes. So hitting it great in the area that is key this week. Putting's been pretty good. Very, very good. So I'm all in on Kelly Craft. You're going to need one. You're going to need somebody like this when you're building your lineup. The other one is unfortunately the same exact price, and it's Marty Doe.
Yeah, I thought you might find that one too.
Yep. I like what he's done with his ball striking.
Sure.
I like the finishes. 12th at the Sanderson was really good. Made the cut in Mexico. Not a big deal. But T49 there and putted well. which I think is a really important thing. You look at what he did in Mexico, and he lost 5 strokes approaching the green. But lately, last 4 events, that ball striking's been a lot better. So it looks like he's found something in the golf swing and has putted well on Pass Palom before. So I think Marty Doe is an option as well. So Kelly Craft number 1, Marty Doe number 2. I know you said you got 2.5. I'll give you my half first. How about that?
Yeah, that's good.
And I don't like this at all, but Russell Knox.
Russell Knox. Let's see what Russell Knox has been up to. It's always good when you say, I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
It's always a good way to preface.
It's something that my wife does. This is terrible. Try it.
Yeah, this smells horrible. Smell it. I'm like, no, I'll just take your word for it. I don't need to sniff it. What is she? I get that all the time. Like, what is
yeah. She'll have a drink and say, oh, it's not good. Take a sip.
Take a sip.
We have to share in misery. Can you just tell me about it?
Why can't you just be miserable? Russell Knox has gained basically multiple strokes on approach every event dating back to the Travelers Championship, basically 10 events in a row. I cannot imagine there's anybody in this range that can equal that.
No.
The problem is it hasn't.
What does it lead to?
Yeah, it hasn't really led to a ton of great results, but 2 top 30s in his last 3, both of them were this fall, are his 2 best results. So, kind of.
It's a half. It's a half. Now, I don't think that 6,700 is going to save you enough to make a real sizable difference. You know, I was messing around here, going with Kelly Craft. Just it works. The same lineups work. So I don't think I really have to go to Russell Knox. But, you know, I wouldn't be upset at you if you played him.
My second one was Ryo Ishikawa, who finished 4th at the Zozo and has been crushing globally, crushes on the Japanese tour, and he is like very, very inaccurate off the tee. So this would be a good place for him. And then my half was, I can't even remember who my half was. I think it might have been Marty Doe.
Yeah. Yeah, it works. I think he's a good play.
The fact that I can't
where's Rio priced again? Oh, yeah, he's 6,700 too.
Yeah. There's not really a great like where's my super cheapie, right? Where's my
There's been guys like that this fall that have been, you know, they like Kelly Craft, right? He's 6,400, looks great. You have a 6K range with nobody in it, and at 6,400, there's a gem in the rough. There's no rough this week. There's also no gems down there.
Hard to find a gem in the rough when you don't have any rough. So ever. Okay. Well, I think we've done a great job, Greg. And I you know, coming from the guy who's giving himself his own report card, I think we've done a great job.
Yep. Well, if you give a pat on my own back here and happily skip off into the sunset.
That's right. We've got a Monday night full of sports. Tuesday. What time, or is it relative to sunset in which these kids start going around?
Okay. Well, it can start early.
The young kids go out early, don't they?
Young kids go out early. My kids are young, but they won't go out too early. Won't be 5, you know, but my hope is if we're trick-or-treating by 6 o'clock, we're in really good shape. I'd love to be 5. I'd love for it to be 5 o'clock Eastern. The issue, my boys are both ninjas and their costumes are black and they will disappear in the dark. So they're going to be wearing light up necklaces.
Nice.
And I will be running around chasing these guys down.
You are on ninja duty.
I'm on ninja duty. They'll be with friends too, which is good. I can keep an eye on the group. Hopefully we have someone wearing neon.
That could be you.
Yeah, that doesn't do any good.
Yeah, just you can see yourself. Is there a candy that as you're going through your boys' bags, you'll say, oh, this one looks like it's been opened. I'm going to take that. And then when they go to sleep, you're going to gobble it up.
I've been pretty good about the sweets this year, and it may be time for a cheat day.
Nice.
Okay. Because I love this conversation.
Yeah.
Probably more than I even like the candy. I'll give you a top. You want a top 3?
Yeah. Let's start with the top 3.
Okay. Number 1, unanimous year after year is the Kit Kat bar.
Ooh, solid, strong choice out of the gate. Well done.
Choice number 2 is
wait. How do you eat the Kit Kat? Do you break them apart, eat one, eat the other?
Yes. You got to break them up.
Okay. I just take a bite of both.
You take oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Sick.
It's sick. I mean, they tell you they break off.
Oh, so you just listen to corporate America and whatever they want.
Anything they tell me. Anything they tell me.
Okay. Number 2.
It's like an elf when he walks into the coffee shop. Congratulations, the world's best coffee. Oh,
you did it.
Yeah, you did it. That's a different holiday. Number 2 is, I have a little debate here. I'm going to go a little off the board, a little off the beaten path. You may not see this coming. It's the 100-gram bar.
You're right. I didn't see that coming.
Phenomenal.
What is it?
It's chocolate on the outside.
Yeah.
You got some caramel in there.
Yeah.
And you've got like some crispy wafers as well. So the top of it's kind of bumpy with crispiness.
Yep. Crisp rice. Oh,
crisp rice. Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's a little chewy. You know, it's almost like a dog eating peanut butter, but it's great.
You
gotta work it off your teeth a little bit.
That's a relatively new candy, isn't it? That got popular in the mid 80s. That's like a new candy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like my dad's era.
There's not a lot of new candy being invented. Why is that?
Well, look, you don't mess with perfection.
We've solved candy.
Are you gonna mix up the Kit Kat bar? They try this. It's like 72-hole stroke play gets old, but yeah, it's also the best form of it's the best.
Just can't beat it. I can't even think of a new candy.
What are you gonna do? Put a twist on a Ritz cracker?
I mean, somebody's got to be out there innovating. Okay, so we've got the Kit Kat, we've got the 100 grand, and rounding out your podium is
the Reese's peanut butter cup.
The best. That's my number 1.
Just fantastic.
Not even close. It's
fantastic.
Even when they do so we went out and bought candy like a week ago, which was a horrible idea because I've eaten half of it at this point. They have Reese's pumpkins.
Oh,
phenomenal. Just
shaped like pumpkins.
Yeah. I mean, it tastes exactly the same, but it's just
there's something to this, Rick. If you get like, what comes to my mind is Easter, like a Reese's bunny.
Yeah. Or yeah.
They're almost better.
Yeah. Why is that? They're not actually different, are they?
No, I think it's just the ratio changes. They're a little thinner. I think
there's more, right? There's either more chocolate or more peanut butter.
Yeah, a little thinner in the peanut butter, I feel like.
Yeah.
But fantastic. Oh, I would try it. If I come across a pumpkin, it's unsafe for children.
Unsafe. That's this looks like it's been opened. I'll take that, young man. And I'll put it here in the safe pile, and I'll dispose of it when I get to the candy inspector's house. Yeah. You can just tell kids anything, right?
You can tell them anything. They'll remember it years later.
That's the problem, right? Is that now you've got to remember all the lies you've told.
Yeah, they're sharp. I try to avoid that, but again, tomorrow's a night of exceptions.
And tonight is mischief night. You can do anything you want. So listen, it's a great run for parents right now.
No, tonight's not a good night for parents. Tonight's where you're defending. You're defending your property.
You think you'll get TP'd, or are you going to be out there, getting ready to go to battle?
Let's just say if you TP my house, you chose the wrong one.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm certainly not going to be
who knows?
TPing the DuCharme household this evening. And I would recommend that you do not either, but I do recommend that you subscribe. Golf on CBS YouTube channel, First Cup Podcast, wherever gets your pods, and hit the like button, all that stuff that I should probably ask you for much more frequently. Producer Josh does all the hard work behind the scenes. We'll be back on Tuesday for a mega preview pod, Sunday for a recap. Greg DuCharme available on the Twitter machine at The Real GFD. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.